Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we are tackling one of the most important numbers in all of business, marketing ROI. We're going to break it all down and show you exactly how to figure out if your marketing budget is a genuine investment or if you're just throwing money away. Let's dive in.
This is the question that probably keeps a lot of entrepreneurs and marketers up at night. You're pouring money into ads, creating content, posting on social media, but is any of it actually moving the needle? Are you growing your business or are you just making noise? It's a really stressful feeling, but the good news is there's a concrete way to get an answer.
And that answer is your return on investment, or ROI. The best way to think about it is like a GPS for your marketing. It literally tells you where you're going, what's working, what's a dead end, and exactly when you need to find a new route. It is, without a doubt, the single most critical metric for understanding how your marketing performs in the real world.
Okay, so the official definition sounds a little textbooky, right? But it all comes down to two really important ideas: profitability and comparison. See, ROI isn't just about how much money came in. It's about the profit you made compared to what you spent to get it. And that comparison, well, that's where all the power is. But let's just cut through all the jargon for a second. At its heart, ROI answers one very simple, very direct question. Was it worth it? Did my ad, my campaign, my effort, did it actually pay off? That's what really matters, whether you're a tiny one-person shop or a giant corporation.
So why are we so obsessed with this number? Well, for starters, it tells you exactly where to put your money. Simple as that. If one channel is killing it, you double down. Second, it's your proof. It lets you walk into a meeting and show your team or your investors that marketing isn't just some vague expense, it's an engine for profit. And finally, it gives you the cold, hard data you need to get smarter over time.
Okay, so how do you actually figure this thing out? Now, I promise the math is way more straightforward than it sounds. You absolutely do not need to be a data wizard to get this right. Let's just walk through it together.
So here it is, the basic formula. You just take the revenue made from the campaign, subtract what you spent on marketing, and then divide that number by the marketing cost again. Multiply the whole thing by 100 to get a nice clean percentage. Now, let's make it real with an example.
So let's imagine you run a campaign and spend $10,000 on it, and by the end you can track that it brought in $50,000 in brand new sales. Perfect. We have our two key numbers, the cost and the revenue it generated.
And boom! The math gives us a 400% ROI. So what does that actually mean? It means for every single dollar you put into that campaign, you got $4 of profit back. That's an amazing result. It's clear, it's powerful, and it tells you without a doubt that this campaign was a huge win.
Now, calculating the ROI for just one campaign is useful, for sure, but the real magic, the part that's a total game changer, is when you start using this number to compare your different marketing activities against each other. This is how you really start to get smart with your budget.
All right, check this out. Let's say you ran two campaigns at the same time. One on social media, where you spent 10 grand and brought in 30, and another with email marketing, where you spent 5 grand and brought in 20. Now, at first glance, you might think, well, social media brought in more money, so it's the winner, right?
But when we actually calculate the ROI, the whole story changes. Look at this. The social media ads, a 200% ROI. That's solid. Not bad at all. But the email campaign, a 300% ROI. It was way more efficient. Every dollar you spent on email worked harder for you. And this is the kind of insight that completely transforms a business.
Of course, I know what you might be thinking. It can't always be that clean and simple. And you're right. In the messy real world, measuring ROI can get a little tricky. So let's talk about the common hurdles so you know what to look out for.
First up is attribution. A customer sees your Instagram ad, then gets an email a week later, and finally Googles your name to buy. So, who gets the credit? It's a tough puzzle. Then there's the long-term stuff, SEO and content marketing, for example. A great article might not drive sales today, but it could bring in customers for years. And lastly, what about the intangibles, like brand awareness or trust? Those are incredibly valuable, but they don't exactly fit into our simple formula.
This is probably the number one question I get. Everyone wants a benchmark. They want to know, are my numbers good? And while the real answer is, it depends on your industry and your profit margins, there are some general rules of thumb we can look at.
So a 2-to-1 ratio, which is a 100% ROI, is generally seen as the baseline. You made your money back plus some profit. A 5-to-1 ratio, or 400% ROI, like in our example, is typically considered very, very good. And if you're hitting 10-to-1, You're in the superstar category. The goal is to know these benchmarks so you can measure where you stand.
But here's the thing. ROI is the star of the show, but it doesn't tell the whole story by itself. You need a supporting cast of other metrics. Things like your customer acquisition cost, or CAC, how much you pay for each new customer. You compare that to the lifetime value, or LTV, of that customer. And then there's return on ad spend, or ROAS, which is like a specific ROI just for your ads. When you look at all these together, you get a much smarter view of what's happening.
Okay, we've defined it, we've calculated it, we know the challenges. Now for the most important part. How do we actually make it better? Let's jump into some clear, actionable things you can do, like today.
First, and this is the most obvious one, find your winners and bet bigger on them. If email gives you a 300% ROI, that's where your next dollar should go. Second, test everything. A/B test your ad copy, your images, the buttons on your website. Tiny tweaks can lead to huge wins. Third, try to track the entire customer journey. Use attribution tools to see all the touch points. And finally, automate. Use dashboards and software to have these numbers at your fingertips, so you're not always hunting for them.
So there you have it. Marketing ROI isn't just another piece of jargon. It is the tool that transforms your spending from a guess into a predictable, profitable investment. It's how you go from hoping to knowing. So the big question for you is, now that you've got the formula, what's the very first thing you're going to measure? Thanks for tuning in.